Hey guys, what's going on? Gavin here. Today we're going to be talking a bit about my upcoming releases. There's going to be 6 EPs coming out. The first one on this coming Friday. And I wanted to answer some questions some people might have, explain some things further about it so you can understand why it's happening right now the way it is. So, the first thing that you might be thinking is, why so many EPs? Why not just one album or 2 albums? Each project really is separate. When I am inspired to make music and make a recording, it usually has a clear vision in my mind for what the ambiance is or what its stylistic traits are. When there's one project where I say, hey, wouldn't it be cool to make like brutal death metal slam where it's all in 5/4 time signature? But then maybe another day I go decide, I just want to make like really brooding, emotional black metal with good chord progressions and good harmony. Those two things don't really fit. That is why you are getting 6 different projects, is because they are and always were meant to be different. The other reason that I'm doing EPs here is just that I like the format of EPs. The first time I released an album and experienced how much work there is to put in that was 2014. And that's basically 10 years ago now, and it was an electronic album, because in that time I was really just working on electronic music and sound design and music production, mixing. That was what excited me. I wasn't playing guitar at all during that time. While I loved and have at many other points made albums or attempted to make albums, these days I find myself going for EPs and shorter releases a lot more, just in my own listening too. And I think about what would I like to listen to when I have some time. I'd love like a tasty, like 15-20 minute release. I think there's a strange trend in metal that we must release albums. I really don't want a few good tracks and some filler ones that you threw together to make it an album. I really just want like the best. Give me the best track. I think everyone should be making less music and a higher quality music. And I try to practice what I preach in that regard. My writing style with a lot of these projects is very dense. There's new idea after new idea after new idea. For I think like 3 or 4 of these projects, it's literally like that. There's no section that repeats once. It just goes, section, new section, section, new section. So every song is really its own journey. Maybe the other half of the projects, I will at most repeat a section 2 times. Instead of stretching out all those ideas into an album by saying, hey, once you've got like 5 riffs, that's enough. Jam as much as you can into that one song. Make it a journey, make it a story, because that's how I enjoy doing music right now. Another thing to point out is that making just 1 album or 2 albums would be easier than making all these individual ones. And that's because every time I start a new project, I'm now committing to having to get the production and mixing right of this project. I have been self-mixing most of my projects my entire life, starting with when I made electronic music in 2013 and 2014. The production to me is beyond integral to the sound of the record. When I am envisioning this a new project, sure, it's the notes and the way it's written and what's played on the instruments, but at least half as important always is the production. How do I want the drums to sound? Is it more roomy? Is it more dry? How do I want the guitars to sound? Is it more precisely played? Is it more loose and free-flowing? Does the record sound like it's coming from the early 2000s? Does it feel modern? I've spent most of my time this calendar year, 2024, most of my free time, I should say, mixing and tweaking these records, getting the sound to a spot that I'm satisfied with, going completely crazy about, but that snare hit was late, I don't like the way that up 0.5 a dB at that point. I obsess, I lose sleep over that stuff. When you just do one project, you kind of have the main production figured out for all the songs in it. Every time you go do a new project, it's a lot of effort. All that rant aside, part of the reason that we're here is because I'm not so great at releasing music. I'm also not so great at finishing music, because in order to finish something, I must decide that I am happy with it. I tend to work on a project, get to the spot of like 90%, 95% done, all the main stuff's recorded, I did some light mixing, and then I go, okay, I'll work on something else for a year. And this has been my tendency for a long time. I do have a lot of anxiety around finishing projects. Anxiety is a weird way to put it. I just get in an obsessive state that's not very fun to be in. I have to really go into that mode where I'm obsessing about details and make sure everything is fixed and okay by my sort of hypercritical ear. And the irony of this, of course, is that at some point you realize, well, I should just be working on the next project. I should just make the next project better. This is happening all at once also because it just makes it one time in my mind. I have to sort of get in the mode of releasing rather than doing that 6 different times. And it's also just gotten to the point where I have so much in my backlog unreleased that there is enough projects like this to put out. Sharing can be difficult for me, I think in part because I've had negative experiences with sharing my music with others. It's something I covet dearly and I put a lot of energy into, so it does feel a little vulnerable when I put it out into the world, like, hey, I'm showing you my obsession, my thing that I've been careful about it being exactly the way that it is. I am that way, but I also know we must put things out, we must share, and I hope this is encouraging for any of you out there who also are sitting on stuff or you haven't finished things or haven't put them out there. If your favorite artist didn't finish their stuff or didn't share it, you would never be able to enjoy it. So who am I to think I can not do that? And on the topic of sharing, I'm looking forward to being more open with you guys, my audience, about this side of me, the side of me that writes music and makes music. A lot of you know me as Guitar Instructor Gavin, which is certainly me. Who I was before I ever became a teacher or had this YouTube channel was someone who just made music. The reason I got good-ish at guitar was because I wanted to use it in my own music. That's the whole reason I was excited by it and practiced at first, because I just wanted to make records. Making music is really cool, and I think I have a lot to share there as well, besides just guitar playing instruction. Now, there is one kind of funny caveat to this whole situation, which is that in all this music I'm about to release, there are 0 guitar solos. I realized at some point and went, wow, that is crazy, because I spend most of my time practicing guitar, practicing lead guitar. That's like my favorite thing to do in my free time, is work on my lead guitar playing. And yet I've been making all this music that doesn't have guitar solos. So part of the reason for that is that when I am envisioning a project and going, ooh, I want to make a recording like this, typically I know right away whether it's going to have guitar solos or not, just based on the general vibe. Certain genres do it, certain genres don't. I'm super proud of all of the parts that are there. I really avoid in my own writing any kind of dud riffs, anything that feels generic. I try to always be writing for the rhythm riff stuff that's cool. It's not like, oh, just do generic rhythm and then have great lead playing. I love writing interesting rhythm parts. The good news though, the reason that I'm bringing up there being no guitar solos is that even though this music is more kind of coming from my composer brain rather than from my guitar player solos loving brain, I am working on a new project since March with the drummer that is exactly that. We've been writing the tracks and it is balls to the wall, the most extreme stuff I've ever written for guitar. Very intense on the lead playing. It's something I've always wanted to write and focus on. Neoclassical, metal, good power metal type guitar playing, as extreme a degree as I can handle. I know I have that to look forward to. I'm really excited to be done with these projects and to just dive further into that one, but it might be a minute before you get to hear that. Please leave a comment below if you have any suggestions for content that you would like me to go over, and I'll be seeing you real soon, next Friday.